Another draft physics video presentation. Anyway, comments. And I did want to get to some other stuff, but we'll see what happens. Busy. So there was some noise on my previous videos, you know, high-pitched noise, and you can still sort of hear it. Just crickets outside. You know, early in the morning, they make a higher-pitched sound. So, sorry. I guess I'll have to close the window down here or something. Who knows? But anyway, not my fault entirely. So, to the complainers, sorry. It's natural noises, such. The wire transfer concept is so different from Newtonian, is not so different from Newtonian cradle using electrons instead of large balls. Yeah, right. The whole idea is the image transfer, not the wire transfer, so you got it wrong anyway. Images pass through because of the electron actually moving from one position to another position. And that's why light takes longer to get through glass. So you didn't, I mean, I did make the error in the video, but I did correct it in the video. So, but anyway, people are just not getting it. You know, it's just, people need to be on a higher, you know, the audience needs to understand some of these basic concepts to be able to explain all this stuff, because there's so many things to explain. I mean, so many details of effects, events, behaviors that have to be explained. Emitting the photons back out causes the electron to reverse direction. Yes, well, the electron is what causes it to reverse direction is the fact that it's tied to the protons. So it causes it to, yes, reverse direction, that is, take a kind of a U-turn. When it reaches the outside of a substance, it's hard for it to leave the substance, so it is deterred from doing so by the tension between the electrons and the protons. And so it does reverse direction, and in reversing direction it has to give back the direction it was going to acquire the new direction. Ergo, it gives back a photon, because the photons are the momentum conduits in your model. The quanta is the conduit. It can be in the form of a photon. I mean, if I'm going to rephrase what you said, I never thought that. Then it's Newtonian. Well, it's not really Newtonian, because Newton was a bit of an etherist. So, you know, what I want to say, it's, you know, fuck. But anyway, I like that idea. It's Newtonian in the sense that, yes, the same general rules that we see in the world, pool table rules, do apply on a subatomic level. Just take out the friction, and you've got it. Alright. When you block as many, I mean, there's no such thing as heat to electrons and protons. Just isn't. When you block as many people as you do, you will eventually run out of commenters. I mean, it's just a stupid thing to say. So thinking clearly too. So you really do think the people I've blocked wanted to have some sort of legitimate conversation. They weren't just trolling, and they weren't obnoxiously rude. Like, I don't have any rights at all here, right? I have no rights. People can just show up and say any kind of shit they want, and I should just say thank you for the shitty comment, the misparaphrases. I mean, outrageous misparaphrases. I mean, they can't even, you know, in any kind of civil manner even describe what I've said, right? They'll say, I'll call it a force spit, and they'll call it a snore spit or something. You know, I mean, this kind of bullshit. Why should anybody accept any of that crap? You explain to me why anybody should. That those are people who have legitimate commentary. That's the tactic they resort to. When I've never done that. I don't show up on anybody's videos and start making, you know, hey, your name rhymes with poo, GNU, or, you know, I don't bother wasting my time with that shit, so why the fuck should I accept it from other people? So fuck your bullshit. Just name me the name. Name me the guy who I blocked, who was a legitimate commentator. Somebody had something legitimate to say. Just name him, and I'll go unblock him. Thinking clearly too. You tell me. Yeah, finally it removed it. In Mendham, why do you think the best model has to be intuitive? See, this is the kind of assholes you put up with. And you're saying, where the fuck did you get that? Where did I ever say it in my whole fucking life? I've never said anything should be intuitive. I hate the fucking word intuitive. It doesn't mean a fucking thing. Intuitive means you've learned something by experience, right? Like every single time you stepped on a crack, your mother's back breaks. Right? And you learn, oh, hey, mother's backs break when you step on cracks. Right? Intuition is not some magical thing. If you're logical, you know, oh, it only comes from learned experience. That's what intuition is. It's a reflex. Now, sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes you're a paranoid lunatic. Sometimes your life experience has tainted you. Like, say you got hit by a car 3 times jaywalking or something. You know, yeah, so now you finally learned jaywalking sucks, but somebody could tell you, it's still 1 in a million chance you get hit the 4th time. You know. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the idea of having learned reflexes. We just have to understand that sometimes those are that sort of book by the cover stuff. You got to be a little careful with that. Profiling, you have to be careful when you're profiling. Alright, but I never said any such fucking thing. What I said is the model has to be rational, you fucking cunt. Yeah, it has some obligation to be consistent and to be able to explain the phenomenon. I'm just saying you can't just make it up. You can't just say fairies done it. And if you're going to say fairies done it, which is an extraordinary claims should have at least ordinary evidence. I think they should have extraordinary evidence, obviously. I think they should have extremely good evidence. But you should at least be able to show up with something called ordinary evidence for your extraordinary claim. Fuckhead. I mean, you know, why shouldn't I block him? I just deleted this comment, but I mean, why the fuck shouldn't I block somebody who can't hear? I mean, who sits there and pretends to quote me when he's not quoting me? Because I never, ever said it should be intuitive. Admitting the photons back out causes the electron to reverse direction. Because the photons are the momentum... Oh, we already did that. But how about conservation of momentum? So this is the gravity video, right? Yeah. You're a fucking lunatic. The whole video was about conservation of momentum. The whole video was about how there's a certain number of rowers in the ocean, and some of the rowers are in boats. But you can't never destroy a rower. Didn't I say those fucking words? You can never destroy a rower, so he always has to be somewhere. He's either swimming in the ocean, okay, a free photon or a free graviton or a free magneton, or he's in the electron boat or the proton boat. But that's it. You can't exist anywhere else. So it's completely conservational, dumbass. What I pointed out was, well, you know, getting trapped in a circle is conservation. It's a fact. You don't go anywhere, but you're going somewhere. So the two things, even though it sounds paradoxical, you're not going anywhere. Well, you really are. You're just not getting anywhere. But you are going still. So another asshole who can't listen. Fuck. Alright. Sigh. Shy. Not trying to be rude. It doesn't matter whether you people are trying or not. You're very good at it. But bright insight. Oh, so this is the stupid, idiotic Tesla kooks. No, bright insight was completely full of shit, just reading a bunch of propaganda. If you actually read what Tesla actually said, I mean, there's a frickin' transcript of an interview he did, you know, very late in his life, and it is completely insane. I mean, go find it. It's in an audio book form. Alright, the man was full of shit. And full of himself. And look, the other lady, whatever her name is, the one I've already pointed to, did a great little pointing out of the real facts. You know, Tesla didn't invent AC electricity. He didn't invent it, idiots. May have overstated a couple of things. No, he overstates everything. Okay, but you're trying to debunk someone with very little facts or incorrect facts. And so again, this bullshit terminology. Little facts are incorrect facts. Well, they're not facts then, idiot. but the point is my accusations are the ones that are accurate. His is the ones that are inaccurate. And you're too lazy to find the truth. Have you ever read anything Tesla wrote? Fuck for brain? Probably not. Pewdie the Gamer. Drewby. What fucking lunatic name. You fucking idiot. Alright. You are the grumpiest teacher. Well, fuck you. I'm not a teacher, shithead. I'm a human being who's living on a planet of fucking idiots. Trying to just point out, you're fucking idiots. You have wrong answers to fundamental questions. You can't tell black from fucking goddamn white. You've got everything the fuck upside the fuck goddamn down. You don't even know where we are and what we're doing on this fucking shithole of a planet. You don't even know you're fucking goddamn robots. You're fucking goddamn Borg goddamn robots, and you can't even figure that part out. Fucking idiots. That's so cool. Subscribed. Well, whatever. Fuck you, useless information. Alright. I know the Prophet Ascending guy used to troll for years the Bald's channel. I don't know what that is. Yeah. The bald one who is talking about how people who don't have kids selfish fucks. I don't know who the fuck you're talking about. Useless information. Thank you. Fuck you. The kinetic energy equals half the product of the masses. I love when they say this, product of the mass. Product of what? Product of the mass? Can't be product of the mass. A product means you have to add two things together. And if you're adding just two things together, half would be the average of the masses. So why don't you say it that way instead? And the square of the speed. The speed of what? Both of them? So what are you talking about? And such like. Well, a more useless drivel. Sorry, it's just useless crap. Alright, your momentum is not that. Now, in an exchange that's purely kinetic, those aren't going to be the rules. Maybe those are the rules when you're banging a brick into a frickin' French hen. But that's not what we're doing. That's not what's being talked about. So, thank you, but no thank you. Oh, Prophet Ascending. So this is apparently the troll. LOL, my comment was perfectly reasonable. No, it wasn't. It was perfectly useless. I merely inquired. wrong inquire. As to the mathematical method used to compute a twat-centric isotope formula. Well, guess what? I don't think any such thing exists. I'm not reading all this whatever the fuck you're doing. I don't know why you're doing more of it, because it's just a fucking waste of time, so fuck you. Oh, God. Sheesh. Every bit of matter pulls smaller, weaker matter toward it. That doesn't mean anything or make any fucking sense. So, fuck you. It's a nuclear force, gravity. Alright? If you people still haven't gotten that part, then you're really fucking stupid. Atoms aren't magical. They're made of parts. The parts have to move. That means the electrons and the protons have to be moved by the gravity. Not some collective is ever moved. Collectives are never moved. You know, every little bit has to be pushed along. When these bits are together and shape things like planets. So again, that really wouldn't make any sense. Again, the planet doesn't mean anything. I could break the planet into a million little tiny dots, and each little dot, I could just keep one dot of the Earth. Just pull one frickin' atom off the Earth. Alright, blow the rest of the Earth up, and that one little dot will still orbit exactly the same place at exactly the same speed. There's nothing to do with size, shit for brain. The gravity you create has to do with your size. The gravity you fall, how you fall in gravity has nothing to do with your size, because the gravity will affect you based on how many little bits of matter you have. Little bits of atomic weight. Oh, anyway. When the bits are together and shape things like planets, just an idiot. The attraction takes a hollow sphere shape like this. Hey, look, if you want me to debunk some dopey theory you have, then why don't you put your fucking dopey theory online somewhere? Yeah, duh, everybody. So this is the most generic nothing statement ever made in the history of mankind. Oh, it's like a force moving from here to in the center. Yeah, everybody agrees on that, retard. That's the Ben Space they could draw that picture. See the converging lines? That's essentially the bowl shape, retard. So everybody's picture looks like that. My picture looks like that, shithead. God damn it. If gravity was a force, it would consume energy. So this is the most insanely stupid thing. Force is energy, shithead. It can't consume energy. Force is energy. Okay? Energy is movement. What makes movement? Force. God damn, you're stupid. Without balance. If gravity was a force, it would consume energy without balance. What is that? Can't mean anything. Gravitational acceleration is really just the amount of bending that is induced by an object. Some more nonsense. Bending how? Bending of what? Just drivel. Fucking goddamn drivel. You might as well just say the angels pushed on it. They bent it. Whatever it is. This is nothing. You're not explaining anything. Fucking idiot. Alright. So I haven't written this stuff down yet. I can't read it, actually. So it's not very helpful. I should put it into the computer. But look, the idea here is basically you're just making a model of the function. And what's a model of the function? It just defines the parts, okay, and their properties, what they're doing, what they're capable of doing. So that I've provided you. Force bits, matter bits, two polarities. That's it. So you got two kinds of stuff. Force, moving the speed of light. Matter, which absorbs force and only moves when it has absorbed an imbalance in force. That's it. And there's two polarities. The proton force, the electron force, that's the definition of charge. And when you put two charges next to each other, you make a dipole, and that's magnetism. There. Done. The model is, the outline of the model is complete. The structure is there. I've identified all the parts that matter, all the ones that have a significant role to play. There are no other parts that play any role. That's it. You don't need any gluon, puons, fermions, none of this shit. Has any part to play, really, in the model. Now, what's their model of function? Do they give you the parts and the properties? No. There's some sort of thing called a space. What the fuck is that? What's it made out of? How does it work? How do you bend it? How does any of that shit happen? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Alright, anyway. How does the nothing tell the something what to do? Oh, no explanation. Okay, so a model. We did that part. Okay. So then we just deduce from observations, right? So to define this model, what's in it and what happens in it, you have to deduce it. And you deduce it based on what we observe happening. So you observe the parts. Sometimes you can see them because they're big. And behaviors, more likely. And so you have to deduce from behaviors what caused the behavior, what caused the action. You see something happen, you have to detail how it happened. How did the basketball bounce? Well, the guy's hand pushed it down, that kind of thing. You have to explain the mechanism. How did it happen? Where did the hand get the property of push? You explain how it happens. You don't just say it bounces. That's just nothing. So, let's see. So the idea is to make a model that's, all the round pegs go in round holes, all the square pegs go in the square holes, all the rectangle pegs go in rectangle holes. The idea is to make something that fits. The model works no matter where I take it. I apply it to gravity, it works. I apply it to magnetism, it works. I apply it to electricity, it works. No matter what I apply it to, it works. That's a model. something that you have to completely reconfigure, bench space, and virtual photon, those things are obviously not compatible. So it seems obvious that your model isn't really going to get to the elemental function, because elemental functions, they're elemental, they don't really change. They have to do everything. The elemental stuff has to do it all. So you're not really defining physics. And if you have to make those things compatible, the only way you're going to do it is with something much more complicated than either one of those things. So you're not going to be describing a universe that goes from something simple and elemental to something complicated. You're going to be describing a Godiverse, because you're going to be having an elemental universe that's somehow more complicated than the universe that emerges out of it, which doesn't really happen. Alright, so what are we judging this based on? So completeness, that is, you got the more stuff you can explain, the better. The simpler it is, the better. And in a sense, consistency is the same as simple, right? Because if there's some pieces that are inconsistent, that you have to change them, or you have to change it from fairies to gremlins, or the boogeyman or Sasquatch to solve the problem, that's sort of an absence of simplicity, right? You're basically saying, oh, it's more complicated because gremlins turn into pixies, when you put water on them, or some kind of bullshit like that. So really you just want something that's the simplest and the most complete. And I'm arguing I can explain more things with fewer parts than they can, by a long shot. They got a million little bits and a million stupid excuses, and I got 4 rules. So much simpler. Alright. Yeah, so and you're really trying to do as little of the it just is as possible. So my only just is the fact that, yes, the universe has something called force in it. Little bits of quantum moving the speed of light. And it moves forever, and it never gets destroyed, and it never runs out of fuel, and they're all the same, each one of the little bits, and it's just the way it is. It's made out of all these little ping pong balls, and it's made out of ping pong paddles. Okay, this electron proton, the force bits bounce basically off the ping pong paddles. Sometimes they stick to the paddle, but they have to do that with an exchange. If they're going to stick, they have to. The thing that was stuck has to leave. That kind of rule. But that's how simple I've made it for you. And you people don't get it. That's the hands down the better model. Their model has no answered questions, no accounting for the energy needed to do anything. They don't account for the energy for gravity, and ironically, they don't account for the energy for magnetism. They just pretend magnets are just making all this swirly stuff, constantly swirling things. And there's no evidence they do any of that. And yet they keep saying they're doing it with no energy, no loss of mass. So somehow they're moving, but they're not giving back any energy. They're not demonstrating where they got the energy from. And the two things are related in the sense if they understood how the thing really works, they would understand that gravity is converted by magnets into magnetism, into polarized force. And when it's polarized, it can have a much more dramatic effect on electrons and protons. If you hit electrons with electron force, they'll move a lot more than if you hit them with proton force. And vice versa for the protons. So that's the mission here. These idiots like Bill Gates who sit there and say something stupid like this isn't about experiments. Well, no, it's all about experiments, because that's the observational information. That's the information that tells you what your model has to do. Your model has to be able to make all these things. It has to make a match catch fire, and it has to make a heavy thing fall down. It has to be able to create a mechanism that makes all of these different outcomes have to come out of your model. And the way you test your model is to do experiments to show that's where your model fails, or over here that's where your model fails. That's exactly the way, that's the obligation. And obviously if your model is God done it, or magical force did it, you know, that's a bullshit answer because it has no specificness. That's another word in here somewhere I put in here, that you have to have some precision. Yeah, precision versus vague. Okay, and I put right there, no magic. So it's not even so much being vague. Virtual photon. You're basically just saying magic. Alright. I'm not accounting for where it came from. I'm not accounting for how it got there. I'm not accounting for something that has a material impact on other things. It causes them to have momentum. It will cause magnets to move. And I'm not accounting for where it came from. That's violating conservation. Alright. So, don't really have time for a longer video. I have to do something else and blah 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 blah. So, I don't think this is all that long anyway, but time to go. And yeah, I am cranky. I'm just sick of this bullshit. These are not challenges to the simple question asked in the videos. Why can't this be true? I want the explanation for what experiment demonstrates this theory to fail. What experiment does it fail to explain? That everything else doesn't fail to explain, if you want to put it that way. Show me an experiment they explain that I can't. You know. And by explain, I mean say something better than the Magiton did it. You know, dark matter. You know, if they can't do better than that, fuck you. So, yeah, enough of a video. So, you know, till the next time, but, yeah, again, it's just not that complicated. The idea, you're sitting here to judge models. And how are you judged? I'm just saying, I'm just sitting here as a person saying, I don't know how you people can be so obstinate. Because how does their model succeed? In what way does it succeed? Because all I see is gross failure on all the standards that should matter. It's not simple. It's not consistent. And it's so far from fucking complete. Anyway. Till the next time and such. I might as well save it because I'm done. Pretty sure I'm done.